I've gone thrift shop crazy and emptied out every local thrift shop of their hand-painted masterpieces, which I'm going to customize in completely unpredictable ways. So this is it. This is every thrift shop painting in our locale. We bought them. If anyone who lives near me has gone to a thrift shop thinking, I might get a nice little, get a little woodland scene from the thrift, sorry, no, they're all out. So every thrift shop painting is numbered. We have 13 in total. While I'm not gonna do all of them in this video, it gives us a good enough batch to have a pretty substantial random chance. All right, let's pick which painting we're starting off customizing. Number 5. Number 5, which is right here. And my next wheel is full of only the world's most valuable companies and properties. So it's going to be wild and wonderful, whatever it is. Oh, I'm actually nervous for this one. It's okay, and ooh, Blizzard! Blizzard! Wow, that's okay. So I'm going to try and fit the Blizzard universe into this painting, and then hopefully we can bring the value of this up from $10 to $10,000. I don't know. We're going to start off, of course, by picking our palette of colors. I'm going to go with the Diablo universe, partly because the scene composition and the way the buildings look sort of reminds me a little bit of that world, but also because the effect of going dark and grim always makes for a much more dramatic change, which I'm pretty excited about. In this piece, I'm mainly going to be using blues and yellows and reds, but I start off by creating a bit of a wash with my paint thinner and Prussian blue, and I apply it all over my piece to turn it from day to night. Now I want to keep some of the original lighting and shading, so I go through with some paper towel and just sort of pull back in some of the areas I want the light to still hit and have some glow coming back later, specifically around the lamps, some of the windows, and the right sides of the building which catch a bit of the light. But already, as you can see, just with that wash over the whole piece, it's pretty dramatically transformed it to feeling fairly nocturnal. So let's amplify that by adding some clouds and mist around the background and a bit of fog in the foreground. Which is great because it works really well to make this painting mysterious and creepy, as I sort of amplify some of the light sources with this light fog and then start hinting in the yellow for what will become the lit rooms inside the building and the light from the lamp. The vibe is really coming together, but all of the fog and all of the light work has sort of washed it out a lot, and I still want to have some of that contrast in there. Specifically, we have these people wandering the streets, previously adorned with colourful coats in the Parisian streets. This time, we're going to turn them into cautious night wanderers in this town. Amping up the contrast by painting in some shadows in the opposite direction of the light sources, and then putting in a kick of light coming from the direction of the lamp. I gave one of the people a lamp, which I could also add a bit of heat to, a bit of reflection on the ground. It really just sort of helps set that mood and also create the setting itself, something more gothic and medieval. And even though the paintings of the people are really rough, I try and allude to coats and swords and things that really pull it into that era. And that has done a lot to set the time and tone for my piece. So it's time to go through and add some of those sharp details that even in the really roughly painted original that I'm working on top of, I'm going to sort of work in the same style. So a little more splodgy, but still trying to be confident with the way I put down the light in the windows and using the palette knife to create some edge highlights on the areas reflecting against the light source. And while this is already doing a lot to bring this painting into the world of Sanctuary, there's a few more things I can do to add that gothic tone, like transforming those pine trees that were on the left into dead deciduous trees with a little more character and a more gnarled look. And last but not least, it wouldn't be the world of Diablo without some demons. The finishing touches on my demons with the red glow in the eyes. I'm happy to call this piece done. Completely transformed and customized from a quaint town in Europe during the day to a dark town in Sanctuary at night where monsters roam. All right, that's our first one down. I'm gonna do a couple more. Let me know in the comments how I went with my Blizzard customization, but the next painting I'm gonna customize is number 6. It was almost 4. 6. Oh, it's a big one. Hello, mama. I can't even fit it on the camera. Now we find out what I'm gonna put into it. We are going to be customizing. Whoa, that was almost Marvel, but instead it's Looney Tunes. It was almost epic. Now it's going to be a bit zany. There's quite a lot of possibility here. There's plenty of room. The question is what room I take up and where and what with. But in terms of like stylistically, the original is quite a soft feel with fairly sepia sap-like tones. I want to try and blend into that, but at the same time, it's like the Looney Tunes really do pop out quite a lot. So I'll have a think about it and we'll see what direction we go in. Now this one was a bit of a head scratcher, to be honest. I mean, first of all, how do I pair the two styles? But actually more challenging for me was what do I put where? Like the composition was going to be really challenging to lay out. But a scene started to sort of build in front of me in my imagination and I got to work. It only makes sense that, of course, this is Elmer Fudd's sort of hunting grounds, his domain, and I thought I'd pull on the classic rabbit season, duck season thing with Bugs and Daffy involved, and of course, I'm going to slip in Tweety Bird because he was always my favourite when I grew up. And I didn't want to repose them dramatically, I wanted to go with things that people are familiar with so that there's sort of an immediate familiarity and nostalgia. And I've decided to go in more of the cartoony style. I mean, it works really well in things like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and obviously Space Jam is the perfect example. Inserting the chaos into an otherwise calm environment is a very Looney Tunes thing to do. Now, painting acrylic paint on an oil painting is never really a good idea and isn't going to stand the test of time, which is why I'm grabbing my gesso primer and following my Sharpie line work around to make sure I have a foundation that my acrylic paint can stick to. This is a double whammy because aside from stickability, it also gives me a nice flat, bright tone for those colors to go down on, look even and look bright. As I go through and add the layers of colour, it really is pretty straightforward. The trickiest thing is just to make sure that everything is as flat and consistent as possible. Some areas I'll need to go back through and do an extra coat, but otherwise the paints I'm working with are pretty opaque and doing a pretty good job on their first go. In the end, I'm really happy with the composition. It was the more challenging thing getting started, but now that I've got something in place, it's feeling really good. Bugs in the foreground and to the right leaning on the picture frame, which gives us that sort of fourth wall breaking Bugs Bunny feel. And then of course, Elmer Fudd chasing off Daffy in the distance. Now, some of you might be wondering why he's chasing Daffy when it says rabbit season, but that, my friends, is why Bugs is holding that marker. We'll get to that in a moment. But speaking of paint markers, this really is the step that brings everything together. That first layer of color which has to go down before the line work always has me a little bit worried about how it's going to look. It just, feels quite unfinished and unpolished. But coming in with the paint marker to add in the line works just totally completes it in a really satisfying way. With my finishing touches of the line work, it's time for the final finishing touches of the painting, making sense of the whole scene. By outlining my sign with the brown, writing the original text, and of course a nice bright red to go on top of the word rabbit to be the word duck. And adding that little punch of highlight on the red marker that Bugs happens to be holding, which ties the whole scene's theme together. So now we can reveal and enjoy our final Looney piece. Customizing stuff is just fun. You can do it yourself quite easily, and I make it even more easy and more fun with my Customize It kit. There have been a lot of people who have wanted one but haven't been able to get one based on the price. I'm excited to say the Customize It kit is back, and I've brought the price down to under $100. So for only $99, you get over $200 worth of awesome art supplies and really fun customizing projects, including a 40-page guidebook, over $80 worth of professional paint markers, varnish, gesso like I used in my painting, so you can make your own Looney Tunes thrift shop pieces, premium sketchbook, brushes, tumbler, skateboards. There's so much packed in here, and it's incredible value and an amazing gift for yourself or a loved one. So go check it out at customizeitkit.com. I'll put a link in the description and in the pinned comment, and hopefully some of you have been really excited to try it but been on the fence can get it now and have a lot of fun. I held a competition, some of you might remember, for people who customize stuff and use the hashtag #CustomizeItKit. The winner was Shay Maven Studios, who made an amazing array of goodies customized from the kit itself, but even made a video showing the whole process. It was really fun. She has been sent that prize of the awesome custom Zelda Nintendo Switch. Oh my god, I am having so much fun in this video. Let's do another one, shall we? Okay, I'm going to do one more, but even after this one, we've still got a good amount of paintings to go. So let me know in the comments if you like this style, or if you have another way we can boost the value and modernity of some of our thrift store paintings in a future video. All right, next one is number 9. Number 9. Ooh. Different, very different to any of them here. Like everything here is a landscape that takes up the whole piece. This has got this interesting vignette. Okay. Now it's time to see if it's going to remain a dream or become a nightmare. Ooh, what? Lord of the Rings. Okay. Do you know what? For dreamlike, that's not bad. And Lord of the Rings is one where I think I can sort of fit into that nicely, hopefully. That's at least the goal. Now, to fit Lord of the Rings into this painting, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I just didn't exactly know how to achieve it. You see, just this soft vignette of white and this beautiful white sandy shore and the seagulls in the sky, it all screams into the west. The final scenes of the final Lord of the Rings film, where the grey ships head off into the immortal land. The first thing I did was use this Spectrum Clear. It's sort of like oil paint without the pigment. It's sort of like a liquid clear, so that it's as if I'm painting on already wet paint. And on top of that, the first thing I did is create these golden light streaks coming out from the clouds. This whole scene is just ready to become even more transcendent, and I really want this scene to feel exactly like the song Into the West. So much so that I am not ashamed to admit that I listened to Into the West while painting this for hours and hours, just the one song on repeat. I mean, it's so perfect. Think about the lyrics. What can you see on the horizon? Why do the white gulls call? Across the sea, a pale moon rises. The ships have come to carry you home. Having painted the mountains with the path into the immortal lands, and then building up big, glorious mountains behind it to sort of symbolize, I think, the heaven that this whole ritual is symbolizing. Of course, I need to try and depict the elven city that our ships are departing from, and I have references that I can use both from the movie and from other artists' depictions of Bilbo and the elves travelling to the immortal lands. Those tall pillars with archways on top and some pointed buildings, trying to get that style of architecture throughout the left side of the horizon and a little bit into those mountains on the right. Now in the song and in this piece we have the white gulls calling, so we also need of course to have a pale moon rising, which I'm going to have just above these heavenly mountains. And this is all coming together so perfectly because we've got these sunbeams shining down in that direction, so I've got a clear point of reference for my light source on the moon. Just a pale moon softly visible in the background behind those mountains. And my whole distance scene is visible, but we have to do something about the character in the foreground. They happen to be wearing a big pair of overalls, which is perfect because after painting out the hat and painting in some nice scruffy hair, I can turn this into perhaps a hobbit or a child elf watching this distant scene. Perhaps not even sure as to what it's all been about, and maybe even oblivious to the adventures of saving Middle-earth that all of these heroes far in the distance have gone on. But also, I think, a little symbol of what has been saved through the adventures of the Fellowship and all of the events of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And that is the peace and the freedom in Middle-earth that its citizens who are otherwise uninvolved in that story get to enjoy. Of all the pieces I've done today, this one has definitely been the most subtle and yet at the same time the one I've enjoyed the most. Both because I've gotten to listen to Into the West for hours and hours, but also because it feels really right to me. I've just enjoyed this thoroughly and feel, at least to me, like I've captured the essence of that song and the scene that I've wanted to depict in my head and sort of transformed this piece into something more personal for me. And I've really enjoyed transforming this painting that I probably wouldn't have looked at twice, but having gone through this process and transforming it into something I can relate to and love, all of a sudden is one of my favorites. Let me know what you think in the comments. But with that said, I'm going to show you the reveals. I wish I could play Into the West, but I can't for copyright reasons, so feel free to mute my video and play Into the West in the background and let me know how I did. After just doing those 3 paintings, I feel really inspired. I had so much fun. I think this is a really fun way to turn the pieces that otherwise might have been lost and forgotten to time into basically a collaboration between me and some of these maybe unknown artists. So if you loved my Diablo reimagining or my fourth wall breaking Looney Tunes customization, or of course the final Into the West inspired thrift shop painting customization, please consider hitting the like button, subscribe to stick around for more. Otherwise that's it for now, and until next time, I'll see you later.